We're now going to have our TED-style talk. The TED-style talk today is going to be delivered by Rev David Tuck. Rev David Tuck has been in parish ministry for most of his working life. He has been working closely with SICM for a few years now, and together we have built a close relationship with himself and the Parish Church of St. Alban.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you for inviting me again to talk about Christian diversity. St. Augustine, one of the early leaders of the church, was a bishop in North Africa. One day he was walking along the seafront. He saw a fellow running to and from the sea with a bucket full of seawater. "What are you doing?" said Augustine. "I'm emptying the Mediterranean," was the reply. "Well," said St. Augustine, "that's about as difficult as explaining the Trinity." This evening, talking about Christian diversity seems to me to be just about as difficult. So I'm going to limit myself to talking about Christian diversity just here in Britain. The key to our present diversity is the Reformation. Until the early part of the 16th century, Britain was part of the Western Catholic Church, worshipping in Latin, looking to the Pope as the authority in all matters of religion. And then the spread of new ideas through printing, the widespread corruption of the church in the high places, the recovery of the authority of the Bible, newly translated into native languages, all this led to the breakup of medieval Western Christendom. In general terms, Southern Europe stayed loyal to Rome, so countries like Spain, Italy, and France are still at least nominally Catholic, while Northern Europe, or much of it, broke away and became Protestant. In the British Isles, the situation was more complex. Ireland stayed Catholic, Scotland became strongly Protestant. The English story is more complex, and after 140 years of turmoil, the Church of England emerged, a strange hybrid, half Catholic and half Protestant. Ireland, as I said, remained Catholic, but a large number of Scots moved to Northern Ireland. The result has been bitter sectarian division and violence. The Good Friday Agreement brought an end to the fighting, but the divisions between Catholic and Protestant still run very deep in Ulster. The Irish Republic remains Catholic, but as the result of the vote yesterday, we see that the influence of the Catholic Church in Ireland is much less than it was even 30 years ago. What about England and Scotland? Well, we have all become increasingly secular. Church-going is in general decline. But I have to say, we Christians are not downhearted. History shows us that the most difficult times for the church down the ages have often been the most creative. And I guess that's true of Islam and of all the other great faiths as well. The Church of England remains the established church, though much reduced. It's amazing that 25 bishops still have seats in the House of Lords. And Britain is the only country in the world, except for Iran, where clerics have seats in Parliament. I find that quite extraordinary. We struggle to keep the parish system going, especially in rural areas, where one priest these days may have responsibility for 8 or 10 churches. In London, we have a new woman bishop, and most of our churches are now culturally and ethically diverse, though there is still a long way to go. In Harrow, the Church of England has 21 churches, with a wide variety of styles and teaching, but all of us accepting the authority of our bishops, the Bible, and the universal creeds of the church. There are other churches, of course, Roman Catholics were totally banned in Britain for a long time. That shameful situation is now over, of course, and Catholics play a full part in public life. Catholic churches in London are full, and this reflects the diversity of the capital's immigrant population. The Catholic Church is finding it very difficult to recruit priests. You have to be male and celibate, and that's not very popular these days. The other major churches in Britain are the Methodists, the Baptists, and the United Reformed. The Methodists started as a direct result of dreadful complacency and deadness in my own church, the Church of England, 200 years ago. Methodism reached working class people in a way that the Church of England has always failed to do. It's famous for its wonderful singing and a strong social conscience. Some say that the Labour Party is the child of Methodism. Baptists have a strong view about the way you become a Christian, and the United Reformed embodies other strands of Christian history and teaching. That's not the end of the story of Christian diversity in Britain today. There are Quakers, we've got them here in Rayners Lane. They worship in almost total silence and have a wonderful record in the field of social justice. There are many small free churches. There are ethnic churches, Sri Lankan, Punjabi, South Indian, Romanian, Ukrainian, Jamaican, to name just a few, and all of them in Harrow. Some meet in halls, some in other churches, some in houses. There are churches where the worship is very formal, with colourful ritual. There are those where the worship is simple, with a great emphasis on the preaching. There are churches like mine, St Albans, where the music is quite traditional. But there are churches where all the music is basically soft rock. There are churches with very different approaches to moral and ethical issues and to the interpretation of Scripture. We all get on much better now than we used to, well, almost all of us. But moving to one great united church isn't going to happen anytime soon. Perhaps God is pleased with our diversity, like a diamond reflecting the light in different ways, and surely no one church can contain all the truth. I'm not sure. But I do remember a saying, not very appropriate here in an Islamic setting, but still true, and it's this: the more pubs you open, the more beer you sell. Is that true of churches? I wonder. Thank you.